Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
And you got Luke.
Luke, today we're looking at the types of television technology. But mostly just modernish stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely modernish because there's just so much out there.
And we've actually done an episode on the history of television, so you can go check that out if you really care about that stuff. So go do that.
Yeah. This is like new stuff, and this is more. So, James, this was kind of like a passion project for me.
Uh-oh, does that mean there's an investment coming soon
because
in the future?
I'm trying to convince my wife to buy a new television, and she's very much a if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of person.
Yeah.
So I either have to smash my television accidentally, or I have to have a really good case for why we need a new television, because these things can be expensive.
If you need like someone to break into your house and like, oh, they robbed us, but all they took was
you got a guy,
the smashed television. I know someone, wink, wink, that could help you out there.
Okay. Yeah. So it's probably like a, next 3-4 month kind of thing. We're doing some remodeling. I want to wall mount the TV, and I want to get a bigger one whenever I wall mount the TV and get all the stuff I need for it. So like, I'm not going to wall mount. Did you ever see the episode of The Office where Michael Scott got the new plasma TV and it was like the size of a laptop on a wall mount? I don't want to do that.
That's probably a good idea. Hey, remind me after this episode to talk about how the remodeling's going, since I don't get to see you anymore. Okay, so let's talk about televisions. So I know I promised we were just going to talk about new stuff, but I found a couple cool things about old TVs, okay? So the first one I'm going to talk about is Direct View. Didn't really know what that is, but they've been rebranded as they're the classic old TVs. They got rebranded as Direct View. They're the ones that use the cathode ray tubes in the televisions. They said, however, like they're old, they're not as good as new TVs, but I read, don't completely disregard the cathode ray tube TVs as an option, because they do have a very specific area that they're so awesome. If you're into gaming, especially older games like your Atari or your original NES, these have a really good place for you, because many classic video games were developed specifically for cathode ray tube technology. And so older games played on newer TVs can actually lag because of the problems with the new televisions. And things like Nintendo Zapper, the light gun. Do you remember Duck Hunt?
Oh, I love Duck Hunt.
Yeah, so that stupid dog will be laughing at you all the time if you play it on a new television, because it works by detecting the modulating electrons on the projected ducts to determine if you hit or miss them. So if you're playing it on a new TV, that stupid dog is going to be like, all the time, because it just doesn't work. So I just thought that was too cool to pass up. I had some other stuff about plasma screens. They were really big in the 90s. They're not so big anymore. That's what I had about that. Digital light processing, or DLP. Fun fact, DLP TVs were invented by Texas Instruments. I don't know how that's a thing. Maybe they're a company we should cover sometime, though.
Ooh,
but
sounds good.
Yeah, I figured I'd throw that out there just because all engineers love Texas Instruments because of their TI 85 or 86 or 89 or 84 calculator. So that's all I had to say about that. Okay. I'm opening it up to you now, Luke.
Okay, here we go. So I have, and tell me if you got a couple different varieties of these.
Go for it.
There's essentially currently there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 5 kind of standards, and I'm kind of mixing OLED, which we'll get into, an LED in a second. But you have what's called an HD TV. So this is what I have, and this is something that's probably going to have like a 720p or a 1080p. These are not ultra high def. These are not 4K. These are not 8K, but these are considered high definition televisions. And these were probably, I bought mine probably, 5 years ago, day of the Super Bowl kind of thing. Got a good deal. Literally got a good deal on it, and it was like $500, and it was like a 48-inch. So pretty expensive, but again, this was 5 years ago. But that was HD. So what we then start to do is we start to get into the Ks, and we'll talk about the Ks. So you have 4K and 8K.
Yeah.
These are also HD TVs that are considered Ultra HD, so UHD TVs. It boggles my mind what they're doing with these. And then the ultra high-end one is high dynamic range, or HDR TVs. So that's the first one I want to start with.
I didn't even see HDR.
Yeah, so what is HDR, you ask, James?
I would like to know, what is HDR?
So HDR is all about increasing the contrast between the white on the screen and the darkest black possible that a TV can produce. So whenever you are looking at a TV, and you notice this at night, so if you're doing nighttime viewing on a TV and you're in a pitch black room, super dark room, the TV still kind of has this glow to it. The black on the TV isn't a true, like, deep black. So this is measured in something called nits, N-I-T-S. This unit measures the brightness, and the really high-performing HDR TVs generate at least 600 nits of brightness, with the top performers going up over 1,000. And these are the super expensive TVs because they have what they call true black. That's the deep dark black. And I really didn't think about like what this looked like when I was doing the research. I was looking at the exact same image on two different TVs, and one was an HDR TV and one was not. And it was like, it didn't even look like the same picture practically, because what happens is when the black background is darker, the whites look brighter, and it's that contrast between the two, and then all the colors in between the spectrum look even better. So it's pretty amazing whenever you see it in real life. So make sure you check out HDR TVs if you're looking. So I'm gonna look at an HDR, but they're expensive.
I was just gonna say, hopefully you're getting your podcast paycheck here soon, because those don't sound cheap. So
the next one, and then if you had, I got time to do this one, and then we can do either a break or so. This is ultra high def, so UHD. So this is what everybody's hearing nowadays. The HDR is relatively new, but everybody's heard 4K. Oh, I need to get a 4K monitor. I need a 4K television. So the K is the pixels. So this is there's 4K and 8K.
Pixels?
And pixels.
Okay.
So a 4K is 3,840 by 2,160. So that's the number of pixels that are on that screen. And then 8K doubles that. It's 768. It's 7,680 by 4,320. And these things are just like, they're so stupid expensive. Like 8K is just like, if you look at 8K televisions, it's insane how expensive they are. And I'm going to get into some prices later on, but that's what the Ks are. Most people, like I have an HD, which is, I got a 1280 by 720. It's a pretty old TV. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. I guess we'll get into it later on about pros and cons, or at least maybe what you should be buying or what you can get the biggest bang for your buck on. So I won't get into that right now. But I don't know, that 8K. So I'm not good at math, Luke. I'm hearing you tell me these numbers: 4K, 8K, 3,000 something, 7,000. Are we just rounding up? Like, I'm not good at math,
what it
but
is. Yeah, that's all they're doing. They're just rounding the numbers for some
they're
reason.
Saying,
38.
You people are too stupid. I'm going to round this number up for you.
Well, the reason it has to be rounded is because they do this for an aspect ratio of 16 by 9 television, and so that's why the number gets rounded, because if you did a full 4,000 pixels, the ratio would get a little off, and there's some math involved with the way you can multiply these. So that's why it's just a rounding.
Based
factor.
on the numbers, though, like 4K, okay, it sounds like 8K is kind of far off from 8K, and I can only assume
way far off.
I can only assume like 16 or 32 would be the next K, and those are going to be all the far off, right?
Oh yeah,
like
So like right now,
stupid.
The 8K is rounding by a little under 400 pixels.
Oh,
it's like
goodness.
Yeah.
All right, so this is kind of making me annoyed. So let's take a break for this week's word from our sponsor.
I have to assume it's like Samsung, Sony.
You know, what actually happened is that they both reached out to sponsor us, and they were getting into a heated argument and bringing their legal teams in and things like that. So I was like, hey, we'll just go without a sponsor this episode. It's fine. We make enough podcast money as it is. So we do have some shout outs, though.
Who do we got?
We have Martin M. And I quote, I think an episode about ultralights, gliders, and other small hobby aircrafts would make a great episode. That was the entire email. So thank you,
I'm
Martin
down for
M.
that.
Yeah, I will add that to the list. I always tell people that I have the list, and then I blame it on you if we don't do the episode.
You're such a jerk.
I am. We also had a write-in from Zach W. Zach W. is an international student from China and is currently in high school here in Rhode Island. So welcome to the States, Zach.
That's cool.
You picked a very small state to be in, so very interesting.
Did.
And I love this quote, though. I want to be honest. Unprofessional engineering is the reason I started listening to podcasts because I never really found any podcast that intrigued me until a couple weeks ago when I started listening to Unprofessional Engineering. Before that, I've never actually listened to a podcast. So yeah, I'm still pretty new to the podcasts and specifically to yours. We just changed his life.
James, I feel like we're changing lives every day. I don't know about you.
Yeah. What makes me sad is that we've made so much money now that I'm thinking about retiring. But, you know,
James,
how could I?
Not all superheroes wear capes. Some wear headphones.
Headphones mostly, yeah.
Yeah.
That is us. So if any of you want to tell us that we're superheroes, that we've changed your life for the better, that we we misled you and have ruined your life, if you have any topics you want covered, if you just want to say hi, if you want some of our amazing Unprofessional Engineering stickers, why don't you email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com.
Make sure you subscribe, like, review, all that good stuff. Make sure that you share this too. I'd love to see this stuff popping up in some other places. You know, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, the Insta chats. You know,
the Insta chats, TikTok. Yeah, make a TikTok video about this.
The red tweets or Reddit tweets or I don't know what they're all called. But
Reddit
just share it everywhere.
Yeah, I want to see a TikTok video of someone dancing to our intro music.
Nice.
I don't have TikTok, but, you know, you can share it with me somehow anyways. Okay, moving on, Luke.
Moving on
up. So I had some stuff about LCD, mostly just that means liquid crystal display televisions, and the LCD technology uses a unique state of matter, this is why I thought it was interesting, called liquid crystals. So in this state, molecules are fluid but retain a specific crystal structure such that they're all oriented in the same way. So for LCDs, which I know this is old technology again, each pixel of the display contains several precisely oriented liquid crystal molecules that are aligned between two electrodes and two polarizing filters. So when the screen is inert, no light can pass through, but when an electric field is applied, the liquid crystals rotate to a degree depending on the voltage that is applied to each one of them individually, which lets a corresponding amount of light to pass through the screen at that pixel. So by applying the different voltages to the different pixels, you can see the image come across. I just wanted to...
like black magic. Like, who does that?
Exactly. That's why it's like I watch TV and I get angry at whatever the show is or the commercial or something. This is like mind-blowing technology going into something that's old now. It's unbelievable. But this was super popular back in the day. Most LCD TVs are backlit with LED lights, and sometimes they're just now referred to as LED TVs. I always thought they were completely different.
That's one of the biggest pieces that I thought was confusing was LED is the technology behind the LCD screen. Yeah. It's essentially the same thing.
It's fancy marketing is what it is, right?
Super fancy marketing.
Because it's always been pitched to me as that's a totally different technology. But.
So you can tell the technology on LEDs is getting cooler as things go on. So I want to run through LED technology. So specifically within LEDs, this is the progression of how they've changed. So originally, whenever LED or LCD, whatever you want to call them, TVs came out, they were considered what's called edge lit. So that meant the very perimeter of the TV is where the backlighting came from. And if you've ever seen an old LED television, if you like looked at the angle a different way, it would kind of look, bad or crappy or not look great, or wasn't super bright.
Okay.
Then they started to do direct lit, which basically just added more LEDs behind the screen. So you got a better quality, more pixels, that sort of stuff. Then it became what's called a full array, which is, again, a denser array. And then the most current generation of LED televisions use something called quantum dots.
Of course they do.
Of course it's called a quantum dot. I mean, come on. So this is where you have these like amazing, like the number of pixels in LEDs per pixel. It's like mind-blowing that they can fit that much stuff into that spot. And that's why, from a viewing angle standpoint, even though OLED is newer, LCDs, a current generation LCD that has quantum dot technology behind it, actually has a better viewing angle. You can view it, straight on, from the right, from the left, top, bottom. It looks great no matter what. My dad has this pretty old LED TV, and it is one of the full array style TVs, and he has like 2 arrays that are going bad. So he has these big like white fuzzy spots that whenever it tries to do like a true black background, they don't light properly, and it looks terrible.
That stinks. Fun fact about LCD TVs for you, Luke.
Shoot.
They have a growing market. I thought this was pretty interesting for use as outdoor TVs, with model features including extreme temperature usage, so cold and heat, waterproof casing, which makes some sense, and some extra bright LEDs to help you out with viewing outdoors. Last year, I actually ran into one of my friends in Sam's Club, and he had 2 giant televisions and like one of those big cart things. And I was like, whoa, dude, upgrading. And he's like, man, these are like, like $150. And his whole plan was he wanted an outdoor TV. And he was like, those are really expensive. So he just went out and bought these giant like flat screen TVs that aren't for outdoor use. And he was like, if they break, it was $150.
Yeah.
And so he'll just go get a new one every year instead. So maybe when they come down in price.
And that's where that true black helps. So if you go back to that, where we were originally talking about HDRs are really good for outdoor use because the TV really gets dark black, so that viewing during full sun, or actually they have no full sun. So if you actually go on like Best Buy's website, that's what I used. They say partial sun television is what they call them, because I imagine full sun you're just going to get a reflection. So.
Sure. All right. So what do you have next that you wanted to talk about?
So I have a little bit about OLED, which is probably the current one, and then I got some viewing angle stats. Let's do the viewing angle. We kind of did that one. So LCD, as long as it's quantum dots, is best. OLED, which we'll talk about in a second, is better. And then plasma is terrible. Like literally.
I mean, don't say terrible. You might hurt someone's feelings.
You go off a couple degrees of center, and it's not great if you've ever had one of your buddies that went out and bought a $7,000 plasma TV that's worth like $2 now.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Okay, so OLED. Interesting. There is LED in the name. So OLED is organic light emitting diode. And this technology is pretty different than LCD and plasma. So unlike other screen technologies, OLED uses organic compounds that include carbon and other ingredients to create the color. And OLEDs don't have to rely on backlighting.
Yeah.
So that's why OLEDs tend to produce the truer black
the really deep blacks, right?
Yeah. So what happens is when your TV or your smartphone, because a lot of the newer smartphones are using OLEDs, the electricity activates the OLEDs sitting inside of your display, and basically it calls whatever color it needs at that really specific spot without backlighting. So OLEDs don't require backlighting, like we mentioned. It's considered an emissive technology. So again, when the TV is looking at a super dark background, it can actually completely shut that OLED off, and you get black, where backlit televisions can't do that.
Yeah. So every time I hear this, just because it says organic, I immediately think that there's like amoebas floating around in my TV, and that's what's doing this. I know that's not right. I thought you were going to say
like vegetables.
Well, basically, yeah, but like I know that's not right, but that's somehow what I think about. A couple things that I wanted to point out about OLED technology. In theory, that it can transition images 1,000 times faster than LCDs, reaching a refresh rate of 100,000 hertz. So that's kind of crazy. OLEDs don't require backlighting, so they use approximately 40% less power than LCD screens. So that'll save you on your energy bill. If you haven't checked out our
thinner.
Yeah, very thin, crazy thin. If you haven't checked out our episode on energy efficient homes, why don't you go do that after listening to the rest of this episode? And a fun fact about OLEDs is that they can theoretically be printed on any substrate, including flexible plastics. So some of you may have heard about smartphone companies. I think there's actually one out now with foldable touch screens that you can work with.
I think it's a Samsung, right?
I think so. So that's possibly, or that's possible now because of this OLED technology, which is really cool.
Did you ever buy a curved TV?
No.
Remember whenever curved TVs were like the trend, and 3D TVs were kind of trendy?
Yeah.
And nobody bought them?
I didn't have either of those purchases, so I'm happy about that.
Okay.
One last thing about OLEDs that I wanted to talk about is that a major hurdle for them is that they do have burn-in for images, which is no good. And I've had that happen to me on not an OLED, but a different screen before, where I watched so much ESPN where I'd keep it on in the background while I was working, and the little ESPN logo was burnt into my screen in the bottom like left corner where that like scrolling thing always is.
Too funny.
So don't do that. Okay, I know we're a little bit over, so let's take a break for this week's Luke's Rant.
Okay, we're going to keep the rant related to TVs, and I mentioned it before about TV prices, and I just I don't know, I'm having a really, really hard time with this because, and we'll do specifics here in a second, they're like, you could buy, like, I'm looking for like a 65-inch television. I have a pretty big room.
You do.
And a pretty big wall that I want to put this TV on. So anything less than like 65 is probably the sweet spot. I could probably go up to 80. The prices literally go from, and I don't know how this is possible, and I get the technology's different or better, but like you can get them for like like your buddy, you can get a 65-inch TV for like $250, or I can spend $7,000, and I just don't understand like how there could be that, and even within like a certain like style. So like if you go with like an HD 1080p television, 65-inch, even within like even not going to different Ks, even staying within HD, the price ranges like thousands of dollars. And when you look at them, the refresh rate is what I never paid attention to.
Yeah.
Apparently that is a really big part of, like, if you watch a lot of sports, you want a super fast refresh rate so that it keeps up and you kind of catch all of it. But the weird thing is, I've seen that, and I don't like it. It looks like animated almost whenever the refresh rate is almost too high. So, but yeah, it's very confusing. You go to any website, and I know we're probably not helping here that much.
No.
We're adding to the nonsense.
We are.
But if you go to like Best Buy, there's like no easy way to do it. I mean, it's just there's such a range, and
we'll help out here at the end. How about that?
I hope so.
I want to add on to your rant. I know this is completely unrelated to your rant, but I have one. This whole episode has just been making these feelings bubble up in me and this anger just take control.
Alrighty.
And this all goes back to, I think, more than a year or just about a year ago now, where I watched this amazing opportunity show up the Battle of Winterfell, where the White Walkers came in to attack
so dark.
all of Winterfell. And I'm like, this is going to be great. The battle's epic. It's so huge. And it was so dark, and I could see nothing. And then they
didn't
came
have an
back.
OLED TV.
Stupid HBO and stupid David and David, or whatever their names were, and all of those jerks are like, oh, well, you needed an OLED TV. Look at it here. Look how perfect that is. Oh, I'm sorry I didn't go buy multiple $1,000 television to watch your stupid show so that I could see it because it was so dark. And it still makes me really mad to this day.
I just saw a thing the other day. It was like the Battle of Winterfell brightened. Like someone actually took it and they did some adjustments to the color.
That's what
so
I needed.
See it.
God. Oh, or if you set your screen to this special setting. Oh, that's what I should have to do to watch a TV show. God. Okay, moving on, Luke. What's next?
So the next thing I got, I got some prices. I don't know if we want to save that till the end.
Did you look at QLED at all?
I didn't do any QLED. I kind of ran out of steam on this one, James.
QLED is quantum light emitting diode, which is the next. It's the next generation of LCD display. Tiny nanoparticles called quantum dots, like you were talking about, improve the color and brightness. There's not a whole lot of stuff going on about this just yet, so I won't go into that too much. I would suggest not buying something like that yet. Others that are in theoretical testing stages are like field emission display, FEDs, and surface conduction electron emitter displays. So at least they're getting different names. So all super cool. But let's get into a quick buying guide. How about that?
Shoot.
You
want to start or me to start?
Here, I'll start. How about that?
Okay.
And you probably have more useful information. So if you're in a hurry about buying a television, here are the most important things, according to James, that you should be considering. It's fine. So don't buy a TV with less than 4K resolution. And again, no, you're not going to agree with that?
No, go ahead.
But I was going to follow up on, you can skip the 8K televisions because 8Ks are still super, super expensive, and 8K movies and shows aren't available yet so much. So why would you get one? I got a really affordable 4K resolution TV, and it's super nice. Expect to pay about $500 for a good 55-inch 4K television.
That's
more.
Affordable?
Or more. That's not affordable for a television?
I forget how much money you have.
Yeah, I just roll in cash. And that's probably more like $900 for a 65-inch. Sorry, Luke. Don't buy a TV with less than 120 hertz refresh rate. That's important for smooth motion. Hopefully Luke agrees with me there. Look for an HDR compatible set. So this offers a more realistic color set and better contrast. OLED TVs look much better than most LCD sets, but QLED TVs from like Samsung or Vizio are not like an affordable middle ground out there. I'm still a little hesitant on that technology myself. Look for at least 4 HDMI ports. This is something that really gets me. I have two kind of older TVs that are almost useless for connecting to other stuff, like now that I do Hulu and stuff like that, so that I have all my little things, video games plugged in. So look for a lot of HDMI ports. They say plan to buy a sound bar. I don't have any problem with the sound that comes out of my TVs, but apparently that's a suggestion. And avoid extended warranties, because oftentimes your credit cards already provide something like purchase protection or things like that. And the technology is just going to change, so you can go buy another $300 TV in 5 years.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Here's
Luke.
what I got. So I'm going to do a little comparison shopping for you. This is off of thebestbuys.com. So if you are interested in buying a 65-inch 4K, yes, that's 3,800 and something stupid Ks. It sounds better as 4K.
Yes.
So 65-inch 4K. If you wanted to get an OLED, this is going to range anywhere from $1,800 to $3,200. Those are the minimums you could get and the maximum. So the difference between those is resolution, some other things, some of that refresh rate you were talking about. That's why there's the range, which is insane to me that there's for one type of TV, there's that much of a range. If you do LED, this is basically like more my speed. You can get, again, 65-inch 4K LED, $399, which is killer price. I think it was like 25% off, all the way up to $2,700 for an LED TV. And the brands are all over the place. I think they were kind of Sony, Samsung, Vizio, Westinghouse was thrown in there. They make some TVs.
Sort of.
But apparently, if you crack these TVs open, I've been told by lots of people, they all have the exact same guts. They come from like 3 or 4 different facilities, and they just put stickers on them.
That's just like our friends at Blue Bunny, who I'm walking through their factory line, and they're like, okay, so here we're making our Blue Bunny ice cream, and right over there, they're making the same exact thing, and it's the Dairy Queen cakes that they were producing. And I was like, wait a minute here.
That crunchy stuff
Oh my God, that's so good.
Ooh-wee. Okay, last couple. The most expensive TV you can buy at Best Buy, and this isn't an outdoor television because they go a little crazy for outdoor.
Yes, they do.
This is a Sony 98-inch LED 8K HDR television for $59,999. That's $60,000 for a television. So first of all, if you have $60,000 and you spend it on a television, stop listening to the show.
Yeah, we don't
want your business.
No, we don't, unless you want to sponsor us.
Oh, then exactly. definitely keep listening and buy that TV. So that was insane to me. The cheapest TV that you can buy at Best Buy, and this is right up my alley, James. This is a 19-inch LED 720p HD TV, state-of-the-art. Insignia is the brand. $74.
74. What a deal. And what you could do, instead of wall mounting it, you can just set it on top of your other TV and watch it that way.
I mean, it's just I guess this would be like 19-inch. That might be like what you put in your kid's room, maybe, or if you got like maybe in your
if you want their eyesight to go bad,
yeah, maybe in your garage, as they say over in the UK, instead of garage.
My mom always had like a little TV in the kitchen, so like she was always like baking or whatever, and she'd have a TV on in there. So that was always a little one. Maybe that one.
So right now, I'm kind of leaning towards. I can't do. I need a 65-inch. I need 4K.
Yeah.
I can't spend $1,800 on a TV. So I'm leaning towards what you were mentioning. I'm probably going to do like an LED 65-inch. It's probably going to be somewhere around $500. I'll have to remortgage my house to buy it.
Yeah. Well, that'll be probably the case. I would suggest anybody who's looking, hang at Memorial Day sales, Black Friday sales, stuff like that. You can find some great things. Super Bowl sales.
The best. That's whenever I bought my TV, whatever it was, 5 years ago. The best time to buy it is like the day before the Super Bowl. Tons of deals.
Dude, I still have one of those giant. It was one of my first purchases once I got a job. It was like a giant projection screen TV. It weighs 92,000 pounds. It's in my basement. Don't tell me
you moved it from the old house to the new house.
Yeah.
Why would you move it?
Because I couldn't leave it there for them to have to deal with, and I couldn't just leave it on the curb to get taken away. So I was like, fine, since I'm getting movers anyways, I'll make them move it to my basement. So
that's too funny.
It's useless.
Hasn't been on in 12 years, but you moved it.
We use it for exercise video things and Nintendo video games. So that's it.
Okay.
I did have something about curved TVs versus flat TVs. Like you said, they were all the rage back in the day. I tried to make this a whole section, and basically everything I read was like, yeah, don't do that. Those aren't worth it. A little bit about reflections, and otherwise they're basically no better than anything else. So don't buy a curved TV. Anything else you wanted to cover, Luke?
No, just if anybody has a TV like 65-inch 4K that they don't want, just text or just email James and I'll get you my address.
To you. That's fair.
I'd love a new TV.
Gosh, how about it? If somebody's listening and wants to sponsor you with a TV, let's have it. Okay.
I would so do that.
Hopefully you all enjoyed this. Maybe you figured out something that you need to know about buying a new television, or maybe you just now know why you weren't able to watch Game of Thrones properly. If any of you have any questions, if you want to just say hi, if you want to hate on Game of Thrones because you're still angry about it like me, why don't you email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. And until next time.
See ya.